You have 3 minutes to clean up. My wife, the chief executive, fired me in front of all the captains. I said, thank you. 37 top workmates stood up one by one and silently followed me. She giggled arrogantly, until the legal director panicked and whispered, call an advocate immediately. Before I tell you how a single sentence detonated an entire company, do me a small favor, tap subscribe and drop a comment about where you're watching from. It helps these stories find the people who need them. I'm Ethan Cole. I was 38 that morning, wearing the blue shirt Victoria liked because she said it made me look steady. We'd been married 5 years. She'd been CEO for 2. I'd been with Titan Crest Industries for 7, long enough to build the systems everyone relied on and short enough to still believe effort mattered more than optics. That belief died in the Atlas boardroom. The room smelled like polished wood and expensive confidence. Captains, division heads, senior leaders, people with titles long enough to require business cards in landscape orientation, sat around the table, laptops open, pens poised. I was there to present a risk mitigation plan for the next quarter. I'd worked late for weeks, tuning it, anticipating questions, fixing what no one else saw because that was my job. It was always my job. Victoria arrived late. When she did, she didn't apologize. She never did. She slid into the chair at the head of the table like the seat had been waiting all morning just for her. The room leaned forward. I remember thinking, stupidly, that we might talk afterward about dinner plans. That was the last normal thought I had. She didn't look at the agenda. She didn't look at me. She tapped the table once, sharp. Ethan, she said, voice calm, almost amused. You have 3 minutes to clean up. There it was. No preamble. No HR. No discussion. Just a sentence designed to shrink a person in public. I felt 37 pairs of eyes snap to me. Some sympathetic. Some relieved it wasn't them. Some calculating how far they were from the blast radius. My heart thudded once, hard, then went oddly quiet. I didn't stand up right away. I closed my notebook first. Folded the page. Slid it into my portfolio. 3 minutes, Victoria repeated, smiling now. She liked smiles that didn't reach her eyes. Let's keep this efficient. I stood. I didn't argue. I didn't ask why. I didn't mention the projects, the uptime, the savings. I didn't mention the nights or the weekends or the fact that the platform everyone sold was stitched together by a team that trusted me. I picked up my portfolio and said, clearly, evenly, thank you. A ripple moved through the room. The kind that happens when something doesn't match the script. Victoria's smile widened, triumphant. She thought my thanks was surrender. I turned and walked out. The hallway outside the Atlas boardroom was glass and quiet. My footsteps sounded too loud. I was halfway to my office when I heard the first chair scrape back. I didn't turn. Then another. Then another. A rhythm started, leather against floor, a chorus of decisions being made without speeches. I stopped and turned. Ryan Park was first. Senior engineer. He had his laptop bag already on his shoulder, badge in his hand. He nodded once. No words. Ananya Varma stepped out next, calm as a metronome, eyes focused, messenger bag zipped. Lucas Moreno followed, then Hannah Brooks from DevOps, then Daniel Wu from Finance. They kept coming. Faces I knew. Faces I'd hired. Faces I'd protected. 37 of them, standing, walking, choosing. Inside the boardroom, Victoria laughed. I heard it through the glass. A light, careless sound. Dead weight, she said to the remaining captains. Let them go. Margaret Hayes from legal went white. We didn't chant. We didn't announce. We walked. The reception desk froze as we passed. The elevator doors opened like a held breath and closed around us. It was tight, awkward, human. Someone laughed softly. Someone else hummed without realizing it. In the lobby, sunlight poured through the windows. We stepped out together. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Miguel Alvarez from Facilities, who'd seen more truth in this building than any executive ever would, started clapping. Slow. Deliberate. The sound echoed. Outside, the world looked the same. Inside Titan Crest Tower, it never would be again. The elevator doors slid shut behind us, and for a few seconds no one said a word. 38 floors down felt a lot longer than usual. The air was thick with adrenaline and disbelief, the kind that makes your ears ring. I stared at the glowing numbers above the door, counting them down, wondering how a normal Tuesday had cracked open like this. Ryan finally broke the silence. So, he said, adjusting the strap on his bag, guess this makes it official. A few people laughed, short, sharp bursts that released pressure more than humor. Ananya glanced at me, studying my face like she was trying to read the ending before it happened. You okay? She asked quietly. I will be, I said, and to my own surprise, I meant it. The elevator chimed in the lobby, and we spilled out together. Security froze. The front desk assistant looked up with wide eyes. She knew something was wrong, but not yet how wrong. We walked past the turnstiles, badges already useless, and pushed through the glass doors into the sunlight. Outside, the city hummed like nothing had changed. Cars honked. A delivery truck hissed to a stop. Someone across the street laughed into their phone. It felt surreal, like we'd stepped out of a burning building into a perfectly normal day. Miguel clapped again, louder this time. "About time," he said. "I've watched that woman chew through good people for 2 years. You all just did what the rest of us wish we could." That set something off. Applause rippled down the sidewalk. A couple of employees from other departments drifted closer, whispering, phones already out. Someone raised a fist. Someone else wiped their eyes. I took a breath. "Listen," I said. "No speeches. No pressure. You don't owe me anything. If you want to go home, go. If you want to job hunt, I'll write recommendations until my fingers fall off." Ryan shook his head. "Too late for that. You didn't ask us to follow. That's why we did." Phone started buzzing. Mine felt like it was vibrating through my palm. Missed calls. Messages stacking so fast I couldn't read them. Slack notifications still coming through. Apparently IT hadn't caught up yet. We drifted to the parking lot in a loose knot. Someone joked about lunch. Someone else asked, very seriously, about health insurance. I promised we'd figure it out. I didn't know how yet, but saying it out loud made it feel possible. 20 minutes later, I was driving home with my phone on the passenger seat, lighting up every few seconds like a distress beacon. Unknown numbers. Emails from people I barely remembered. One subject line caught my eye at a red light, urgent, heard what happened. I pulled into the driveway at 1:47 p.m. My wife's car was there. Of course it was. I sat for a moment with the engine off, forehead resting on the steering wheel. The house looked the same as it had that morning. White siding. Neat lawn. The illusion of stability. Inside, Victoria was at the kitchen island, laptop open, headset around her neck. She looked up when she heard the door. Her expression flickered, surprise, calculation, annoyance. "You're home early," she said. "I got fired," I replied. She blinked. "No, you didn't. We had a restructuring discussion. I told you to clear your desk." "In front of the entire leadership team," I said. With a stopwatch tone. She closed her laptop slowly. "You embarrassed me." I laughed once, sharp. "You fired me. You should have handled it better," she said. "You should have pushed back. You made it awkward." 37 people walked out with me, I said. "Was that awkward too?" That stopped her. She scoffed, but there was something brittle under it. "They're replaceable." My phone buzzed again. I ignored it. "You fired the people who know how the company actually runs," I said. "Legal knows it. Finance knows it. You will too." She crossed her arms. "You think this scares me? I'm the CEO. And you just created a public termination without cause," I said evenly. "With witnesses." Her eyes flicked, just once. "Karen will handle it." As if summoned, my phone rang. A number labeled, legal. I answered. "Ethan," Margaret Hayes said, voice tight, "we need to talk. Now." Victoria watched my face change as Margaret spoke. Words like procedure, exposure, multiplier. Phrases like public humiliation clause and mass resignation liability. When I hung up, Victoria's confidence had thinned. "They're overreacting," she said. "They're doing math," I replied. I stepped past her and went to the bedroom. Packed a bag. She followed, talking fast now. "This doesn't have to be dramatic. We can smooth this over. You come back tomorrow. We say it was miscommunication." "I'm not coming back," I said. She stared at me like I'd spoken another language. "You're choosing this over us?" "I'm choosing myself," I said. For once. I left before the argument could spiral. The air outside felt lighter. By evening, the story had escaped the building. Messages poured in. Former colleagues. Competitors. Recruiters. One email stood out, short, direct. 37 people don't walk unless there's something worth following. If you're building, let's talk. I forwarded it to Ryan. His reply came instantly. "Guess we're building." We met that night in a borrowed co-working space, pizza boxes, folding chairs, exhaustion etched on every face. 37 people who'd chosen uncertainty over humiliation. I stood at the front, hands shaking just a little. "I don't have a polished plan," I said. "But I know what I won't build. No fear. No public executions. No pretending people are disposable." Ananya smiled. "That's already better than where we came from." Outside, my phone buzzed again. A text from Victoria, "This is going to get ugly." I looked around the room, at the people who'd trusted me with their futures, and typed back one line. Only for the people who started it. By Wednesday morning, the company I'd walked out of no longer felt like something in my past, it felt like a live feed disaster unfolding in real time. I woke up to my phone buzzing on the nightstand like it was possessed. Emails stacked on top of texts, texts on top of missed calls. Unknown numbers. LinkedIn messages from people who suddenly remembered my name. Group chats lighting up faster than I could read them. One message thread stood out immediately. It was still active. Still inside. Someone had forgotten, or chosen not, to revoke my access. The internal chat channel that used to be boring status updates and meeting reminders had turned into chaos. Is it true 37 people walked out? Who's running systems now? Does anyone know where the deployment keys are? Legal is freaking out. I scrolled, jaw tight. They were panicking. And for the first time since that boardroom, I felt something settle inside my chest. Not joy. Not revenge. Just certainty. They didn't fire a problem. They fired the glue. I rolled out of bed and made coffee, real coffee, not the rushed, burnt office sludge I'd lived on for years. I had time now. Too much time. And somehow, not enough. By 9 a.m., my phone rang again. This time, I recognized the name. Margaret Hayes. Legal director. I answered. Ethan, she said, skipping pleasantries, I'm calling in a professional capacity. Of course you are. There was a pause. I could hear papers shuffling. Breathing controlled too carefully. You were terminated without cause, she said. In a public setting. Yes. With explicit language that could be construed as degrading. Yes. And immediately afterward, a significant portion of senior staff resigned. Also yes. Another pause. Longer this time. We need to discuss containment. I smiled into my coffee. You should have discussed procedure before the firing. Ethan, she said quietly, this is serious. I know. We are exposed on multiple fronts. Employment law. Investor confidence. Operational continuity. And the board is concerned. That word again. Concerned. Corporate code for terrified. What would you like from me? I asked. She exhaled. We'd like to offer a severance agreement. Generous. I already have one, I said. In my contract. Yes, she replied. That's part of the issue. She didn't need to explain. I knew exactly which clause she meant. The one my lawyer insisted on years ago, back when I was overprepared and paranoid. Public humiliation multiplier. Margaret continued, we're prepared to honor the base amount immediately, provided you sign a non-disclosure and non-disparagement agreement. No. Silence. No, she repeated. No NDA. No gag order. That's not how this works. It is now. Her voice tightened. If you don't cooperate, this could get messy. It already is, I said calmly. And I didn't start it. She hung up without another word. 10 minutes later, Ryan called. They locked everyone out of the main repository, he said. Including themselves. I laughed. I couldn't help it. That's impressive, I said. They don't even know what they locked, he continued. Half the documentation lives in people's heads. The other half is outdated. They're scrambling. Good, I said. What about our side? A pause. Then, people are nervous. Excited. Terrified. All of it. I'll be there in an hour. The co-working space buzzed like a startup incubator and a therapy session had collided. Laptops open. Whiteboards filling up. Coffee cups everywhere. Conversations overlapping. No one was sitting alone. That mattered. I stood near the center and let the noise die down naturally. Here's the truth, I said. I don't know exactly where this goes yet. But I know two things. 1, what we walked away from is collapsing faster than anyone expected. 2, we have leverage. Ananya raised an eyebrow. Legal leverage or market leverage? Both. I explained the severance clause. The exposure. The calls I'd already received, from investors, from competitors, from people who smelled opportunity the way sharks smell blood. And you? Ryan asked. What do you want to do? That was the real question. I looked around at 37 faces. Engineers. Designers. Analysts. People who'd trusted me enough to walk away from certainty. I want to build something that doesn't break people, I said. I want to build something where no one ever hears, you have 3 minutes again. Silence. Then nods. Okay, Ryan said. Then let's do it. By Thursday afternoon, rumors became headlines. Internal turmoil. Mass resignation. Leadership under scrutiny. The stock dipped. Then dipped again. My phone rang. Another unknown number. This is Daniel Reyes, the voice said. I sit on the advisory board for 2 funds that hold significant positions in your former company. I waited. We're reassessing our exposure, he continued. And we're very interested in what you're doing next. I'm unemployed, I said. He chuckled. Not for long. That evening, Victoria finally called. I almost didn't answer. Almost. What do you want? I asked. Her voice was sharp, but strained. Do you have any idea what you've done? Yes. You humiliated me. You fired me in front of 37 people. You're turning this into a spectacle. No, I said. You did that. Silence. Then, quieter, the board is asking questions. Good. They're asking about your contract. Also good. They're asking why legal wasn't consulted. I leaned back in my chair. You should answer that honestly. She laughed bitterly. You always think you're right. No, I said. I think I finally stopped being quiet. Her voice hardened. If you push this, you'll burn everything. Some things deserve to burn. She hung up. Friday came fast. So did the consequences. The company announced an internal review. Investors demanded meetings. Clients paused contracts. 2 senior VPs resigned quietly before lunch. And then, late afternoon, my lawyer called. They're ready to settle, he said. Bigger number. Fewer restrictions. How much? He told me. I closed my eyes. And the apology? I asked. A pause. They're resisting. Then they're not ready. I declined. That night, we signed a lease on a small, imperfect office space. Nothing fancy. Concrete floors. Bad lighting. Potential. Someone brought beer. Someone else ordered cheap food. We sat on the floor and talked until midnight. Not about revenge. Not about them. About us. About what we wanted to build, and what we refused to become. Outside, my phone buzzed one last time. A text from an unknown number. You were right. We should have listened. I didn't reply. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't looking back. By the time Monday rolled around, it was no longer just my story. It had become the story. Every tech newsletter, every business podcast, every backchannel Slack group was whispering the same thing in different words. A CEO fired her own husband in public and lost control of the company overnight. I didn't have to check the headlines to know. I could feel it in the way my phone never stopped vibrating. I could hear it in the voices of people who called me now, careful, respectful, curious in a way they'd never been before. The building we'd rented still smelled faintly of old paint and dust, but it was alive now. Screens were mounted. Whiteboards filled. Power cords snaked across the floor like veins feeding something that was finally waking up. 37 people didn't just follow me out. They stayed. That mattered more than any headline. On Monday morning, I stood in front of them again, not on a stage, not behind a polished desk, just leaning against a folding table with a coffee in my hand. I'm going to be honest, I said. This week decides everything. Not for them, for us. Ryan nodded. Legal fallout? Yes, I said. And pressure. A lot of it. Because while Apex Nova was unraveling, they weren't going down quietly. At 10:12 a.m., my lawyer called. They've escalated, he said. They're claiming you orchestrated the walkout. I laughed. I didn't tell anyone to leave. I know, he said. But that won't stop them from trying. What's their angle? Breach of fiduciary duty. Interference. They're fishing. That was the moment it clicked. They weren't just afraid of losing money. They were afraid of losing narrative. I thanked my lawyer and hung up. Across the room, Ananya caught my expression. They're coming for you, she said. They already did, I replied. They just didn't realize how many people were watching. At noon, the first formal letter arrived. Thick. Legal language. Carefully aggressive. They wanted silence. They wanted control. They wanted me isolated. Instead, I forwarded it to my lawyer, and then to 2 journalists who'd already reached out. Transparency was my shield now. By Tuesday afternoon, the board announced an emergency investor call. That same afternoon, I received an invitation to speak privately with 2 board members, without Victoria present. I declined. If they wanted to talk, it wouldn't be behind closed doors. That decision changed everything. Because when you refuse secrecy, power shifts. By Wednesday, 3 more executives resigned. Quietly. No press releases. Just gone. And then came the call I didn't expect. Not from legal. Not from investors. From her. Victoria's voice was different this time. Tired. Stripped of authority. Can we meet? She asked. About what? About us. About what happens next. I was silent for a moment. Public place, I said. No lawyers. She agreed. We met at a cafe halfway between our worlds. Neutral ground. She arrived late. She always did. She sat down across from me and didn't order anything. They're turning on me, she said. I know. The board says I acted recklessly. You did. She flinched, but didn't argue. They're questioning my leadership, she continued. They're questioning everything. I watched her hands tremble slightly as they rested on the table. I didn't think they'd follow you, she said. I thought fear would keep them in line. That was your mistake. She looked up. You could help me. No, I said calmly. I mean it, she insisted. You know the systems. You know the people. If you speak up, say this was emotional, impulsive. You want me to lie, I said. I want us to survive, she snapped. I leaned forward. You fired me in front of everyone. You told me to clean up in 3 minutes. You laughed when I thanked you. This isn't about survival. It's about consequences. Her eyes filled with something I hadn't seen before. Fear. They're talking about replacing me, she whispered. I said nothing. They're saying the company can't recover under my leadership. Still nothing. They're saying I've become a liability. I finally spoke. Now you know how it feels. She swallowed hard. Did you ever love me? That question landed heavier than anything legal ever could. Yes, I said. I just didn't love the person you became when you had power. We sat there in silence. When she left, she didn't look back. That evening, my lawyer called again. They're backing off, he said. Too many eyes. Too much evidence. They want settlement, quiet. No NDAs, I repeated. No NDAs, he confirmed. Full severance. Written acknowledgement of improper termination. And they want you to stop talking. I smiled. I haven't said anything untrue. Thursday morning, Apex Nova stock hit a new low. Thursday afternoon, the board announced a leadership review. Friday morning, Victoria Calloway resigned. The press release used the phrase, mutual decision. No one believed it. I read the news on my phone while standing in our office, surrounded by people who had chosen dignity over comfort. Someone let out a low whistle. Someone else exhaled like they'd been holding their breath for weeks. Ryan looked at me. How do you feel? I thought about it. About the boardroom. The stopwatch voice. The laughter. I feel finished, I said. With that chapter. That night, we worked late, not out of panic, but purpose. We finalized our structure. Our values. Our non-negotiables. No public humiliation. No fear-driven leadership. No silence as a management tool. Outside, the city buzzed the same way it always had. But inside, something solid was forming. I checked my phone one last time before heading home. A message from an unknown number. You won. I didn't reply. Because winning was never the point. Not anymore. By the time the press stopped calling my phone every hour, the dust had already settled where it mattered most. Not in headlines. Not in stock charts. But in the room I was standing in. Our room. The office was still rough around the edges, exposed concrete, borrowed desks, cables taped down with whatever we could find, but it was ours. No glass walls. No corner offices. No hierarchy you could smell before you walked into a meeting. 37 people. All still there. That was the part the articles never fully understood. They talked about the CEO's fall. They talked about the severance numbers. They talked about market confidence and leadership crises. What they didn't talk about was loyalty. The kind that doesn't come from contracts or bonuses, but from years of being seen, protected, and trusted. The first official Monday of our new company felt strangely calm. No panic. No adrenaline spikes. Just work. Real work. People showed up early, not because they were afraid of being late, but because they wanted to be there. Conversations happened openly. Disagreements were sharp but respectful. Decisions were explained, not dictated. I walked through the space with a mug of coffee, listening more than talking. Ryan was already deep in a whiteboard debate with 2 engineers about system architecture. Ananya was sketching product flows on a tablet, headphones half on, half off. Someone had brought plants, actual plants, and lined them up near the windows like a quiet declaration that this place was meant to grow. I stopped near the center of the room and felt it settle in my chest. This wasn't revenge. This was replacement. Not replacing a company, but replacing a way of leading. At 11:17 a.m., my lawyer texted. Settlement finalized. Funds transfer initiated. Written acknowledgement included. No NDA. I read it twice. Then I locked my phone and put it face down. Money mattered. Closure mattered. But it no longer defined the moment. That afternoon, we signed our first major client, One Apex Nova had stalled for months because leadership couldn't agree on priorities. The call ended with laughter and relief on both sides. "You're different," the client said. "This feels human." I smiled. That's the goal. Later that evening, I drove home for the first time in weeks without my shoulders brushing my ears. The house was quiet. Victoria's things were gone. Not dramatically. Not angrily. Just, gone. A note sat on the kitchen counter. No accusations. No excuses. Just acknowledgement. "I'm sorry I learned too late who I became." I folded it carefully and put it away. Some apologies don't reopen doors, but they do close wounds. Over the next month, Apex Nova unraveled exactly the way systems do when you remove their load-bearing walls. Projects missed deadlines. Clients exited politely. Talent drained quietly. The board installed interim leadership, then replaced them again. Each announcement sounded more desperate than the last. Eventually, the news cycle moved on. It always does. But something interesting happened beneath the surface. Recruiters stopped calling Apex Nova. Investors stopped defending them. And people started using a new phrase in conversations I overheard. "Don't pull a Callaway." It became shorthand. For arrogance. For public humiliation. For confusing authority with leadership. One afternoon, a junior engineer, 23, nervous, brilliant, approached my desk. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Always." "Why didn't you fight back in that room?" he asked. "Why didn't you yell? Expose everything?" I thought about the boardroom. The stopwatch voice. The laughter. "Because power reveals itself best when you let it speak," I said. "And silence gives it the microphone." He nodded slowly, like something had clicked. 6 months later, we moved into a real office. Not flashy. Not symbolic. Functional. Our revenue stabilized. Then grew. Our culture attracted people we hadn't even posted roles for. Word traveled the way it always does when something is real. Quietly. Authentically. One evening, as I was locking up, Ryan stopped beside me. "You know," he said, "people still talk about that day." "I know. They call it the 3-minute firing." I smiled faintly. "Funny how long 3 minutes can last." He nodded. "You ever regret not saying more?" I looked around the office, at the lights, the desks, the team photos already pinned to the wall. "No," I said. Because I said everything that mattered afterward. As I stepped outside, the city felt different than it had months ago. Not because it changed. Because I did. I didn't need titles anymore. Didn't need permission. Didn't need to prove anything to someone who mistook fear for respect. 3 minutes ended a job. But loyalty, quiet, unspoken, unforced, ended an empire. And built something better in its place. Before I close this story, do me one small favor. If you stayed until the end, let me know where you're watching from and follow along, because stories like this don't spread unless people decide they're worth sharing.